Welcome to Fly Nubian Money. I am Laura Lala Key, your host for today. And today we're tackling a very significant and controversial topic in our communities. And I am joined by some awesome co-queens. If you want to know what this controversial thing is, we're going to be talking about baby mama culture. And this seems to be something that is becoming the norm. And I want to talk about, we definitely want to talk about, is this harming our communities? And we want to talk about how the role of the Black family is so important. Today, I am joined by Linda Husser. She is the bodacious lifestyle coach for Black women over 50, and Tiara Williams, our actress, producer, and owner of Real Virtual. Welcome, ladies. I'm so glad to have you today.
Thank you.
All right. It's going to be kind of crazy for this. Are y'all ready for this? So we have some great footage that I think that we should start off with. So to get this conversation going, let's dive into this short clip video from the 80s or early 90s that is featuring some young Black women who are expressing their views on fatherhood and the necessity of men in their household. And they all are single mothers. This is my era. This is when I was growing up. So I have a lot of friends as well as myself who was a 16-year-old mother. And I kind of feel a little bit differently than the young ladies, but I feel like at this time is when people started saying that, you know, it just wasn't important to have the father in our household. So this footage was very gut-wrenching for me, and I really had a hard time watching it, and I think you'll see why once we pull that up. But right now, I want to know, have either of you had experience with single motherhood yourself or within your family? Tiara.
Let me unmute. Oh, I am unmuted. Okay, great. Yes, I actually grew up without both of my parents. So I was a foster kid raised as raised by the community of my family. My mother was unfortunately, and my father were caught up in the crack epidemic because that was what the 80s were. It was the start of all of that. And not in turn, I'm not a single mother. My child's father is very active, but I am a single woman. So we're not together, but we co-parent wonderfully. Thank God that he is there and he is hands-on and active. He does not miss a beat. So I'm grateful that we have a father in the house.
That's a blessing, and it's also in the slim side of what we experience in our community. So that is a huge blessing. How about you, Linda? What is your experience with, you know, single familyhood, and have you experienced this in your household or your community?
You know, I did not experience it in my household. I did grow up with my mother and my father. However, now that I think about it, all of my first cousins, nobody's father was in the home. And I mean, nobody's father was in the home. It is amazing. And so now that I'm thinking about it, we were the only married family in my family. Out of all my first cousins, I'm thinking nobody was married. And so I feel that it's important, even if your father isn't in the home per se, like what Tiara said, which I thought was really beautiful. She said she's not a single mother, but she's single. Girl, that's a t-shirt right there. Because basically what you're saying, Queen, and thank you for clarifying that. What you're saying is there's single mothers, there's single women, and there is a huge difference. So I would really like to explore that a little bit more. But of course, we're going to go into the topic, but that's very important and a very clarifying way to put that. And thank you so much for making that clarifying difference.
Agree. And before we roll the footage, I'll put in my experience with it so that we have context of all the queens who are on here and our experience of this in the background of our lives. I was raised by my aunt. My birth mother gave me to my aunt because she had gotten into a lot of trouble. And so my aunt was the one who raised me. But when I say mama, I mean my aunt. Now, I lived in a community, I call it my village, where all of my aunties and my uncles lived in the same neighborhood, and my dad still lived in the neighborhood too. So even though my parents weren't married, I had a weird village, but still a blessed village. Most of my aunties and uncles were all married, and all of them were. So they were an example for me. So let's sit back and watch this video because I have a lot of things that we can really dig into with this. All right, hold on.
Married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. You know, it's a lot of responsibility, and then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so you know it really male figures are not substantially important in the family.
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married.
Ouch. If you're just now joining us, you're watching Fly Nubian Money, and we are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. And if you don't want to miss us, you can get a notification by texting Queens, Queens, to 87948, and you will get a notification. And sometimes we have some freebies for you there as well. You also want to make sure that you join us on Spotify. All you have to do is go on over there and type in Fly Nubian Money, and you can take us on the road with you and listen to us at your convenience. And then also, we help you get your financial house in order. And so if you don't know where to start with that, you can visit our website at flynubianmoney.com, where we have a lot of resources for you there to get you started on your financial road. And today I am joined by my co-queens, and we are talking about why baby mama culture is beneath Black women. I wanted to cry with that video. So I'm going to start off with you, Tiara. What are your thoughts and your perspectives shared in that video?
You know, I think when I look at that, all I see is conditioning, right? It reminds me, I mean, I hate to get all historical, but since Black people have been brought to this country, it has been an agenda to divide and conquer. It has been, our ancestors being separated. Some of them sent to to Alabama, while the rest of the family is sent to Mississippi. You know, it's just part of the agenda. So since the beginning, we have been separated. But I would say like somewhere in the 80s or 90s, like that whole era was really a time when there was an agenda, I think, to program us in a way. So it just sounds like programming to me. It's almost like today when I look at female rappers 20 years ago, 30 years ago now, you would cringe to be like, who you calling a bitch? But now the girls be like, I'm a bitch, I'm a hoe. Like, they've taken on that armor. So it's kind of the same to me. It's the same agenda of like over time conditioning, for just being conditioned to just be like, you know what? We should normalize this. And so that's what I see. It saddens me, but I feel like it goes along with Black community, like how, like I said, we've been conditioned.
I have to agree on that. And it seems like our audience who's here with us right now are pretty much kind of feeling how we're feeling. Shalonda said that male figure is most definitely important in the family dynamic. And we heard that young lady say that she didn't feel like that the male persona is a big difference at all to her. And one of them said that she didn't want the drama. She didn't feel like she wanted that, which just makes me cringe as well. And we have someone else that they're all too young and they just don't understand. And we would love to know where they are today, which actually I would love to know that too. Linda, what are your thoughts and perspectives on this video?
My thoughts and perspective on that video is I want to just piggyback off of Queen Tiara and just say that a lot of that is conditioning, programming, because those women, young ladies, grew up in homes where mama didn't have anybody. And instead of mother saying, hey, this is not where you want to be, I would have wished that there was a father figure in the house. She has to save face. So then she's got to make it seem like this is okay, right? And so then we just perpetuate that. And we've got generations of children having children, having children, having children. And they're all saying that it's okay. We don't need a man. But the one girl who was talking, who said that it wasn't absolutely necessary, I sensed the defensiveness in her tone, and it's a sense of sadness there as well. So my whole thing is we've got to do better as a community, even those of us who had our children young or did not have a man in the home. We've got to stand up, own our stuff, and just say, hey, if I had it to do all over again, I would have preferred that your father be in the house, instead of making excuses and making it seem as if it's okay and we got this.
I agree with that, which brings me to the next question. Doctor, it seems like Dr. Vibe, Tiara, he agrees with you. He said that's a very strong take. We have been and continue to be conditioned. And I have to give Dr. Vibe a little shout out because he is a very well-known podcaster who is also he really pushes fatherhood. He really works hard for our communities. And so he has kind of a different take. So I'm loving that he's here today. Shalat is saying, my parents are still married strongly, but I don't necessarily promote marriage at all. And that's going to be another great topic that we can talk about today. But Tiara, I love your take on how, and Linda touched on it too, that you are single, but you're not a single mother. And so I would like you to elaborate on that just a little bit more. Give us a little more context of what that means in your life to your child.
Yeah, before we even talk about that though, I just want to back up a little bit. We have to think about, just to piggyback off of what Queen Linda said, we just have to think about what the Black man has had to endure this whole time. You can't talk about today and what's happening in today's culture without reaching back. It's like, I know people want us to forget about our history, but it's so hard to do when, Black men were put, where our mass incarceration, when crack hit the every season, I feel like there's something, right? Like I said, mass incarceration, we're looking at the crack epidemic, which took a lot of Black men out of our communities. And just like when I think about assistance in the government, I think they reward women for not having men in the homes. I don't know. I never got Section 8. I wish I could have. But even when you get Section 8 and government funded programs, the criteria literally is the man can't be there. Like he can't be there in order to receive it, so benefits. So I think for women, women started to see like, well, I could do better without you. When I think that was all intentional. But to answer your question about my daughter's father, it's still, co-parenting is not easy. And if I'm being honest, if in my 20s I could have figured out how to, because of my background and kind of the way I grew up, it kind of affected the way I related to men in my relationships, right? Growing up without parents, you just don't I still needed to work on me, right? And then he had his own personality, right? So there's us in our 20s trying to figure it out. I got pregnant when I was almost 30, so I wasn't that young, but still, it was still me working through some things about me. And when I realized it, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is for me. This relationship is not for me. But he was very intentional. Even when I got pregnant, he was like, I want my daughter. I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to be there. And he has not missed a beat on that front ever. If anything, it'd be sometimes he'd be like, I got her. I'm picking her up. Did you get this for her? Did you do this? I'd be like, well, Jesus. Like, I almost feel like the roles are reversed, which is amazing to me because it's allowed me to still pursue my career here in Hollywood. It's allowed me to still do all the things that I wanted to do while we co-raised this baby. And she's not a baby anymore. She's 13. But, it's hard to do it separately. Would I prefer to be together? Yes, but that doesn't always happen that way. So but when it doesn't happen, you figure out how to co-parent. You figure out how to make it work for the baby. Now we don't miss the opening of an envelope for Lauren ever. The both of us together, we show up as a united front, but it took lots of communication, a lot of like compromise, the same elements of like marriage, I would assume, because I can't get rid of this person. They are in my life forever and ever. And we have this child, but I'm also single.
Right.
So but I'm also single, so there's that.
I have to go to Linda because Linda's like bubbling. She has things to say. So I want to hear your comments and what you're feeling, because I could tell right now you're just like you're loving everything that Queen Tiara is saying. So I would love to hear what your thoughts are on that relationship and how you see that as a great dynamic.
I would love, Queen Tiara, for you. I just see a whole new income stream popping up. Teaching, listen, because I'm a coach, so I always see different things. I would love for you to really think about having a platform so that we could reclaim this whole single mother situation and actually teach our queens the importance of a father being in the home. How do you navigate that? How do you negotiate that? And how important that is. Because like you said, there's some sacrifices, there's some different things that have to happen, but for the sake of the child, it's mandatory and necessary. And we've got to stop tolerating the intolerable and accepting the unacceptable. So I would love for you to really, really think about that, because when you said that, I'm a single woman, but I'm not a baby mama. That is, you are on to something. So that's what I feel about that. That's why I was smiling, because I know it's difficult, but we supposed to be able to do difficult things. Like, why is it that we can say we strong Black woman in this sense, but when it comes to doing the best for your child, you weak and you just fall all apart and I don't need him? It's not about that, because at one point you did need him to the point where you had relations and now you got a baby. So let's not put our head too high. Let's make this work for the child's sake.
Totally agree. Tiara, you have so much support in the comments, and people are loving that because you're actually showing that it can be done. All right. And there is a distinction between what you're doing and what we're talking about here today. And it is what? Mindset. And I think that we have to go back to the historical aspects of this. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, we are going to replay that video in a few minutes so that you can listen to it again after we've talked about it a little bit, and you can get a little more context of what's going on. But if you're just joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We tackle some tough things that are going on that you may be experiencing or someone else that you know is experiencing. And if you don't want to miss an episode, all you have to do is simple. Just pick up your little personal assistant right here and type the word Queens, Queens, to 87948. Then if you're, I might miss it today. Well, go on Spotify and type in Fly Nubian Money there, and you can take us on the road, listen to us before bed, have us with your coffee in the morning. We would love to hear your comments. We'd love to talk back to you. This isn't just us talking at you, this is talking with you. And we would love for you to continue to put your comments in, and we'll address those as well. And if you're kind of struggling a little bit with your finances, we can help you there as well. Please make sure that you go to flynubianmoney.com. We have some great resources and courses for you there to help you kind of get your money in order, because you never know when your your nest egg is going to be tapped into. And if you don't have one, this is where you can find to get started on having one. Today, I'm actually joined by Linda and Tiara, and we are talking about here's why Black mama culture is beneath Black women. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something this weekend. Let's look at some stats. This is perfect timing. Let's talk about single parent households. Black single mothers, as of 2020, are about 64% of Black children were living in single parent households, predominantly led by single mothers. Now, Black single fathers, while less common, single fathers also make up a notably portion of single parent households in the Black community. And approximately 4% of Black children lived with their Black fathers, their single Black fathers. I actually have several cousins that are raising their young daughters as single fathers. And I see this, and they work hard too. But the poverty rates, and I'm going to talk about the economical impact of this. The poverty rates are this. Single mother households, particularly those led by Black women, have higher poverty rates compared to households led by married couples. Nearly 30% of Black single mother families live below the poverty line. All right, this is kind of scary. But let's move on to talk about the behavioral and emotional effects on our children. Let's look at some of the behavior issues. Children from single parent households may experience higher levels of behavior issues. Research indicates that these children are more likely to exhibit signs of aggression, anxiety, and depression. And how about the emotional part? Let's not forget, we are body, mind, and spirit. So the absence of a father figure can affect the children's emotional development, leading to difficulties in forming healthy relationships later on in life. Now, let's go back to that video. After looking at these stats, I want you to really listen to these young ladies again, because as Linda said, I also feel that a couple of these girls are coming from a place of hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. It's a lot of responsibility, and then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so it really, male figures are not substantially important in the family.
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married.
I'm going to cry every time I see that. I have this gut-wrenching thing. And Tiara, you touched on some of the historical aspects of this, but I think we even need to take it back a little further than what we discussed on that. Let's take it all the way back to slavery, where our men were considered bucks. There is a story in my family that my great-great-grandfather was a buck. And so many of his children were spread across many plantations. Tiara, do you feel that this has a significant impact for our generational damage that continues to go? How do we break this cycle?
Yeah, I think that as a community, Black people are so traumatized just in general. I mean, you know, I hear a lot of people complaining about us very often, like, why can't Black people get it together? And I get really sensitive about that. Or why do our Black men play into this and this? It's hard, you know, it's hard to really like not be messed up, because I feel like as a community we haven't had a chance to heal. We just start talking about therapy. And what one thing that we definitely like took from our other generations outside of strength, like we got strength from our ancestors, we got all of those things from our ancestors, but we also picked up the trauma. And then also we're in an environment that still to this day is you know, is discriminatory. We have to deal with things. Our life is always just a little bit harder for us, for different reasons. You know, economically we struggle. But I think the really interesting thing, now that I'm seeing all of these memes that were up, it's like going back to that conditioning, we embrace it now. Like people are proud to be baby mothers. The first thing I said was, if I could have had it any other way, I would be married to my daughter's father. But it just, you know, it just didn't work out. I realized that our personalities were not aligned for forever. And so I didn't want to be in a situation forever with someone that I really didn't want to be with. But I wouldn't intentionally, because now that I know what raising a child looks like, I would never get into a situation just like for fun, because somebody is rich or famous, or you know, because he fine or whatever. Like, oh, I want to have his baby, he don't got to give me nothing else. And that's that's what we're doing, you know. So I couldn't see myself doing it, but I see that women are embracing it more and more, and being okay with just whatever men are willing to give. It's like almost like there's no standards, there's no shame, nobody. It's just like that's what we want to do, be baby mamas.
I love Kim's comment. We must teach our ladies how to date and vet men. That is a part of it, but I also feel that we have to do a better job about giving our young ladies a feeling of worth, and also kind of teaching them that it is sometimes the nature of men to want to get the cookie, okay? And you have to distinguish your self-worth accordingly, because sometimes that's they're going to tell you everything. My father even taught me this. My father was like, baby girl, I know men, so they're going to tell you everything that they can to get in your pants. So I need you to remember that these things, when they're whispering these things in your ears. Linda, you're a coach. So, and I know that you coach, you know, ladies over 50, but your coaching is something that goes across the board. So if you had something to say to these young ladies that were in this video, I would actually love to hear what your thoughts and what you would say to them, because now you're on the other side. So what would your older self tell these younger ladies is a reflection of what you were at that age too?
Yes. So if I were to go back to, you know, teenage years, they're tough. They're really hard. In one sense, you want to march to your own drumbeat and blaze your own trail. You think you're grown. But on the other hand, we are very much socialized beings because we were put here for one another. So you have to decide early on, are you going to be a donkey or are you going to be a unicorn? You really have to make that decision early on. There is a difference. While they're both in the horse family, there is a huge difference between donkeys and unicorns. And you have to be willing to be different. You have to be willing to be a disruptor. You have to be willing sometimes to even go it alone. Maybe you're not going to be the most popular girl in the world, but maybe you find a couple unicorns and the three of you become the three musketeers. You have to be willing to make some radical decisions early on in your life, because the choices that we make when we're young, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what side of the coin you are, they follow you throughout the rest of your life. So I would also want to talk to the mothers of these children, because one of the things that's also happening is children are having children. So a 14 or 15-year-old is her mom had her at 15 or 16. So we've got grandmothers out here who are 30 years old, 31, 32, great grandmoms who are 45. Just so we got to go back a couple of generations and just really rethink and shift the paradigm. The paradigm cannot be proven how strong you are by how many kids, by how many baby daddies you can have, and if you can do it alone or not. That is not where we're going, but I see that's where we're going, but that's not where we need to go. We can be stronger in so many more areas, like not giving the cookies up to everybody and not wanting to be part of there's people who are married to a guy who's got 2 or 3 wives that's online and they're all cool with it. Not here to judge or anything, but that to me is absolutely outrageous in America. But here we are.
Yeah. I love what Penny said. She said at a certain age, some girls are not even thinking that deeply into their future. Our community must do better with teaching the children proper social interaction and the effects far into the future. I think that is the truth, because as we're sitting here as ladies who I feel like we clearly got it. We understand. We understand. But who's not understanding is these young ladies that we are seeing on our graphics and in the videos and today's culture. And we're not just talking, and now it's now even cooler that the ultra elite, such as the Kardashians, are doing the same thing. Now, here is something that is really interesting. We have a graphic up right now, and this woman shows how her absent dad didn't even notice her and asked her if she was single. Look at her comment with him. You bad. Are you single? And she says, I'm Talisha, your daughter, right? This is some scary stuff. So you can't tell me that not having your father in your home is not important. They even got to know who you are. Even if they know your name, somebody needs to know that's somebody's daughter. That to me is atrocious. It makes me sick to my stomach. And I just think that we have to change what people are thinking now. But how do we combat? How do we combat this okayness where it's okay for these ladies to say that they want to get the bag? Yeah. Where is their self-worth in this? Tiara, you got something to say on that, don't you?
Yeah, I just in general, right? You were talking about, I often have conversations with my 13-year-old daughter. And so I'm itching because she's just like, well, I want to have kids. I said, yeah, when you're like 30. Like, wait till your mom, your mom had you, late. Like, go and experience life. Go to school, go abroad, go see what's out in the world. Don't get caught up with what the internet tells you is the right thing to do, because the internet at this point is such a bad influence on our girls. We have these rappers who are hypersexual. We have they're being preached sex at every turn. Be a baddie, get lashes and a lace front, and I mean that's the starter kit for being a baby mama. At this point, you get to target a rich man or target someone who makes over $100,000 and have a baby by him. It's not about like getting new skills and and growing as a person, self-development, all of those things. We're not teaching our girls that. It's just about like, it's really just about this really fake culture that I'm seeing. And so even when I get so annoyed when I see women just chasing, and I live in Hollywood and I work in Hollywood. It's like you come here and you're chasing celebrity men, hoping to secure some type of bag, or you're looking for clout to get next to someone who is famous. It's just a really weird thing when really you can secure your own bag. I think Linda said this: secure your own bag. Really like work on yourself. That's what I tell my daughter that all the time. I said, you just want to take the time and get to know you. You want to experience life beyond the hood that you grew up in. There's so many resources. There's so many things that with the right mindset, because mindset is everything, that you can do. And you can, once you know that you have freedom in the mind to go and do it. Nobody ever told me to come to Hollywood. there's the statistics said that I should have been with 10 children because I didn't have a mom or a dad, right? The statistics say that I should have ended up on drugs. I should have ended up wherever. And people would have been like, yeah, I get it. Because Tiara grew up that way. I mean, can't be mad. She tried. But instead, I went on to have this other life with just a little bit of discipline. And I was just curious about everything. I was like, can I be a model? Can I be an actress? Can I be a producer? Can I write songs? I can sing songs. I just wanted to know more than I had seen. And so thanks for listening to my tangent because I can go. But I'm gonna be quiet. But I guess
It's
the
not a
point is,
tangent. People need to
but
hear
the point
this
is we have
mindset.
to, it's all about what's here and what you want for yourself. I see a lot of girls not wanting much for themselves or not believing that they can have more because they look around and everybody's like, you just go get a job and you just buy a lace front and some lashes and that's your life. That's what the kids are doing right now. And get on the internet and make it look like whatever it is. Give the illusion that you're winning, but you're losing.
I love James had a really good comment. When I was teaching seventh and eighth graders, the girls lacked self-worth and they were proud that they were able to have kids and for someone to see them. Do you see this circle that's happening? If the father is not in the house, some us young ladies sometimes are looking for that father, are looking
Yeah.
to establish something. There's something missing in our lives. So they think that's going to solve that. Linda, what's your thoughts on that?
You know what? It's still going, it is going full circle, but it's really, we're talking about the children, but we got to start talking about the mamas, the mothers of these children is where I'm really seeing this really starting, this really developing. And someone had commented about it starts with the mentors and having positive role models. Absolutely, because even with you, Tiara, you were in the foster system, but clearly there was someone or someone's plural, because I don't know, the ins and outs of your situation, who had a positive impact on you. And it goes far because, like you said, you should have been a statistic, but you weren't. And I'm sure you had some high hopes and some tenacity and some all of that for yourself. But I'd be willing to bet my bottom dollar that there were also some people who were telling you some things like, maybe they didn't break it all the way down and say, even though you're in the system, that you don't have to just be a statistic. They may not have said it exactly like that, but somebody was in your ear in order for you to become the person that you are today. And so while we're talking about the baby's mamas, we need to be talking about the mothers of these young women too, because we got to break the cycle because it is a circle. And we really need to have that conversation. Who are the mothers of these baby mamas?
And sometimes the mothers, the mothers' mothers, the mothers' mothers. That goes back so far. If you're just joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We tackle some really good stuff and we talk about some hot topics of the day and generational curses. How do we change them? What do we do? You don't want to miss an episode, because we talk about everything that is relevant to our communities. So in order for you not to miss an episode, all you have to do is to text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. Now, all right, shucks, you missed us. All right, well, you don't have to miss us. All you got to do is go on over to Spotify. And type in Fly Nubian Money and take us on the road with you. Have a glass of wine, have a glass of coffee, and talk back to us. We love it. But one thing that I don't always ask you to do, and I'm going to ask you to do this today for us, is to please make sure that you share this out. This information is so important to our community. Get the conversation started in your households, in your communities as well. And let's start putting our heads together on how we can change this thing. Now, if you need some help in the financial department, you always can go to our website, flynubianmoney.com, where we have plenty of resources for you there and courses to help you get your financial house in order. Now, in my research on this, I pulled up a couple of things on YouTube that I thought was very valid. And I wanted to see if anybody else was talking the way we feel about this. And I found several people who feel the same way, who are trying to teach the generation this is not good. But I really love this young lady that we're getting ready to bring up, where she actually talks about, and she's the younger generation, on why she feels being baby mama is not wise. So I would love to pull that up so that you can hear what she has to say. And then let's get into what her thoughts are about.
At the end of the day, how is this man going to show up for your kid? A lot of the times, the reason why baby mamas are called baby mamas is because you don't really hear anything about the baby daddy. It's the baby mama doing all the work. Like I said, you chose to have unprotected sex, therefore this is your responsibility. So, of course, with me now being a transfer student, but also, you know, majoring, almost graduating from the U in African American and African studies and history, a lot of things literally stem and root in racism. When looking back at the archives that I went to during my history seminar, a lot of the history archives that I chose to look at because of the topics that we were able to choose from was abortion. And I specifically chose that because I wanted to see what it was like for women back then who had to deal with having their bodies controlled. And the one thing that stuck out to me the most was the way in which Black women were treated when it came to abortions. Abortions, especially pre-Roe v. Wade, were very, very taboo. Only the rich white woman could afford them. And they would also be very hush-hush, very secretive on who was performing them, but they were only accessible to rich white women. And so within reading the archives, a lot of the times I was saying these women were having these children because not only were birth control and other sexual education not given to the Black community, but also they would be forced to have these children and then forced to go on welfare because they wouldn't be able to afford having a child. So then it was also like, with them not being able to have access to abortion, obviously unsafe abortions became a thing. And there was even this woman who mainly performed abortions, and she was kind of known.
Ouch. That goes root deep. And it goes right back to what Tiara talked about. We have to look at the history of this and how poverty, they love to keep certain communities in poverty so that they can continue their agenda. And we can go into a whole nother show about that. But my question is, how as the community, how as our being the auntie, the sister, the godmother, how, Tiara, can our communities change this up and start instilling the difference into our young ladies?
I think somebody already mentioned it. I think somebody already mentioned like self-worth. Okay. I think somebody already mentioned self-worth, and let me pause that. Somebody already mentioned self-worth, and I think something that's really important in our house, and I still consider myself and my daughter's father a unit, because we are a unit. We made a unit. We have a child. Like, we have to kind of move in that way. But the way that what I noticed is, even going through her teenage years, I saw somebody mentions like 7th and 8th grade, like girls lacked esteem. We've dealt with that right now. Like, we've dealt, even having two parents that love on her consistently, she still is just going through puberty. She's trying to find her own way, and trying to figure out who she is. And in that, she's made a lot of mistakes. And then there's pressure of the internet. Although I don't let her get on the internet, she still does it in school. So there's that. There's just all of these other things that we have to kind of like block and shield her from, and figure out what we want to allow her to be exposed to. And so I thank God that her father is there, because there's a lot of things that I just don't get to. There's something that she needs to hear from a man, so even though I say like I'm a single woman, not a single mother, I'm still very dependent on that dynamic. Like I'd be like, well, let her daddy do it. Like I thank God I could say that and just be like, are you gonna? Because today she did this, and he's like, man, I got how we gonna deal? It's still a very like um unified approach to the way we deal with her. But you ask me, I guess that's what I would recommend for mothers. If you don't have a father figure, or the child doesn't have father figures, one of the things that I had that you mentioned, Lala, was cousins. I had cousins, I had aunts, I had uncles, my grandmother had 12 children. So all of her boys were at the house, and all the girls were like in the world, and I got to just kind of like have that where my uncles taught me how to fight. My uncles taught me how to, if it was like, don't be scared of that girl, go outside and fight her, I'd be like, I don't want to fight, or whatever it was, whatever the thing was. It was whatever season I was growing in, there was always someone there to kind of step in and say, this is the way to do this. This is the way. So I think that people should lean. If you don't have a male figure, you got an uncle, you got a daddy, you gotta, and I don't want to put it in, I wouldn't say his name, but I have a really good friend he is like like he just loves children. And so he'll just be like, I'm a mentor this baby. They could be my daughter, they could be my son, and he just takes them on, and he really takes care of them and invests in them. And I respect him so much for that. I respect that he looks at them literally like they're his children. They are his children. Those are his kids since he was young, but he just makes it a point to just like see a child and like just take them under the wing. So there are still people in the community that are like that. And there's still, I think, people around that would do it. We just have to seek out those influences and really just start to look at our community around us. But Lala, a problem with that may be that we don't see each other as community anymore. We don't see community anymore. Like you don't look at we had next door neighbors. The next door neighbors would press my hair. The other lady on the other side would do other things, but we don't necessarily walk down the street and say, no, that's like that's your neighbor. That's your, distant auntie. I used to feel like that when I was younger, that there was a community.
I think that right there is our answer. We got to get back to community. We have some slides up now that are talking about the economic impact. So we talked about the community impact, but we also cannot leave here without talking about the economical impact. So poverty rates in single mother households, particularly those led by Black women, have higher poverty rates compared to households led by married couples. And nearly 30% of Black single mother families live below the poverty line. I think this also goes back to the video that we looked at as well, too. Effects on families and the communities, social support systems. This is so important. This is our community. Single parents frequently rely on extended family networks and community resources for support. However, the availability and quality of these support systems can vary widely. And then how about the role models of these? We talked about this, our uncles, our aunts. The absence of fathers in many Black households highlights the importance of a positive male role model and mentorship programs to provide guidance and support to young men and women. So once again, we're getting back to how important it's just, we're focusing on the young ladies, but how do we also mentor the young men and our sons and our nephews? Because as we're the aunties and the godmothers and, the sisters, we need to hold them accountable as well. So these are things that we have to foster to show them that money is not always everything, but self-worth comes much higher than that. Everything else can come below that, which was going to lead me back to this. When I was doing this research, I had no idea that there was this thing called push presents. I was like, what is that? I'm like, I'm not showing my age. It's where these young men, the young couples, the ladies who want the bag, are taking all of these pictures with the baby daddies, calling them that. The baby daddies giving them big presents for being baby's mamas, and it's everything except the paper and the commitment of a relationship. So how? Now let's talk about the male side. The male is giving them to them like, oh, we're just going to go ahead and give this too. How do we instill this into our young men? Look at this. This man has 4 women pregnant at the same time, and they all are okay with it. Let's look at Nick Cannon, who has 50,000 children and plans on having more kids. You see these things in the social media. You see these with the big celebrities, and it's okay with them. So how do we teach the young men? Let's switch to the young men that this is not okay. You can't take care of children this way. You can't just seed and flee. Linda, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, my love, one thing we can do is put it out there. We can definitely put it out there. We can attempt to have a paradigm shift as well. But I also feel that there are some people, for whatever reason, feel that having as many children as they can is part of being fruitful and multiply. You're going to always have somebody who's going to find a way to justify what they do. If we were to speak on Nick Cannon, that's his whole process is, well, I can afford to take care of them. But children need more than money. They need time, right? So there is no way that he's given equal. How many children is it now? 19, 15, 14? There's no way that he's given all those children equal time. However, I still, and y'all can beat me up. It's all good. Bring it. Chat. I still put most of the onus on the mothers because you carry the child. Because you can choose to abort the baby. You don't have to have the child. So at the end of the day, I believe the mother still has more skin in the game than the man, because the man cannot carry a baby as of yet. We haven't gotten that technology together yet. And so that's just my take on it. I'm still going to put it back on the mother, because we do carry the children if that's what we choose to do. And of course, me being me, I just wanted to throw a monkey wrench in the conversation and get some juicy dialogue going on.
Well, I think you're right in that. But we also have women ourselves. We're caretakers. We're built to be that way. We have the extra emotional thing that goes with it, and connection with men physically is also a way that we express love. So I think we're getting into a different dynamic on how we as women express love. And sometimes, in some cases, these ladies are having these babies because they feel like the man is going to stay around. Tiara, I heard you say, la la, I don't want to skip over you.
Yeah. I understand what Linda is saying, but in that same vein, like I said earlier, I think, like, you condition people to be like we talked about conditioning in a negative way, I think you can condition and train people in the opposite direction, right? We can have these maybe if our culture wasn't so hypersexual, everything wasn't about having sex with women and the pursuit of women and leaving them, and just kind of the messages that we're sending to men, the messages that we're sending to our young men, saying like it's okay to live this lifestyle. It's okay to, I mean, look at what the rappers tell us. Like, right, a lot of times men are looking to these public figures like Lil Wayne and Nick Cannon and whoever else to tell them how to be a man, right? Because they have money, they have swag, they have all the girls, and that's what it looks like to be successful in their eyes. They don't know they're kids, right? And so so you go out and you're like, I'm gonna get 50 baby mamas, and then the difference is that little boy don't have wait until all those mamas need something for the kids. Wait until this baby is sick and that baby is sick, and you going back and forth. If he really puts the time in, it's like that's gonna drive him crazy, having all of those different households. You already have like 4 or 5 different broken households that you can't live in, like you said, 100% of the time. What I've learned is that children need time. Children need time. They need to be told things over and over again. That conditioning doesn't come in one day, once a week, one weekend. It doesn't come that way. You have to spend time with a child to really rear them. And so I would just say, on the flip side, instead of blaming women, and just saying like, oh, if you don't want to have the baby, abort them. I think that everybody needs just, conditioning. If you're looking and seeing like baby mama culture is cool, and not being commitment is one of the best things that you can do for your life. It gives you direction. It puts you on a path. You can build if you can commit. There's all these amazing things that can come from commitment, and we never talk about that. Commitment is also hard, right? It's also a very hard thing that you got to stay, regardless if you happy, you sad, you got to be committed to a thing, and whatever that thing is. And for whatever reason, that's not what we hear in this culture. We're not taught to, really commit. We watch videos for 2 minutes, but if it's 10 minutes, you might not commit to it. You can't commit to a 20-minute video. A lot of people left because their attention spans are low. How you gonna raise kids with a short attention span? So I think it's just important that instead of blaming, we just kind of change the messages and the things that we are feeding one another online. If you are tempted to say something outlandish or give somebody bad advice, because everybody has an opinion on the internet, just don't give it. If it comes to like you sharing all your 25 kids and saying, yeah, this is how I live my life, don't share it. Just go live your life. Shh. So that is my that's just don't say it. Don't share it. We don't care.
I love it. I love it. But you're right, Tiara. This world they teach us in social media, hey, don't keep that video over a minute because you're not going to be able to keep everybody's attention. That's true. But we also, what you said, you have to nurture. So check this out. Nick Cannon, Father's Day, said his Father's Day gift was that his children could all come and talk to him on Father's Day and get advice. I'm sorry, that's not nurturing. Mariah Carey has actually even come out and said he don't see them that much. As a matter of fact, I don't need him. See, here we go. We're
There's the
back
cycle.
to the cycle.
At least they were married.
And yes, and then he went crazy. I don't know what was going on with all them babies. I just can't. I can't. First of all, I can't even believe that this hour has gone back so fast.
Mhm.
We have really tapped into something that has deep, deep, deep roots. There's so many aspects to this that we can continue to get into. But before we close this out, I just want to remind you that you are definitely watching one of the best shows around, Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we tackle some tough topics. And if you don't want to miss an episode, you want to text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. As simple as that. And then if you want to get your financial house in order and you want to get some courses and you just don't even know where to start, you can make sure that you head on over to our website at flynubianmoney.com. Now, if you have missed an episode, you can always go back and check us out on Spotify, and you can just look up our name there, Fly Nubian Money, and you'll be able to take us with you on the road. I agree with Kim. Kim's comment is we need to further discuss this. This is like a mini series that we need to dig into, because I think what we do need to get back to is community, and how do we do that to get these young ladies mindset a little different. So I'm going to throw it to you, Linda, first. I would love to hear your final comments on this, because I know we have so much more to talk about this, but what are your comments about this today, and how can people reach you?
Well, my comments on this today is that you don't have to be a baby mama because you are single. You can still co-parent with the father of your child. You can still have a dignified relationship with the father of your child. You could still have a radical love for your child and still be single and include the man in your life. I am Linda S. Husser, also known as the Bodacious Lifestyle Coach for Black women over 50, and I can be reached on all social media platforms under Linda S. Husser. And speaktolinda.com for a free 30-minute Ignite Your Life session.
Love it. So make sure you guys go over and check out Linda. She has some really good stuff, and you can be bodacious too. Tiara, I would love to hear your final comments, and where can we find you?
Ooh, there's so many things I want to say. If it's a wrap up of um black women are been listen, the name of the title was baby mama cult, like why that is beneath us, right? Why baby mama culture is beneath black women. It is, right? I feel like we are worth more. We are queens. We are deserving of men who are stable and there for us and there with us and going through the process and taking care of us. And I think we're deserving of all of that. Right. And so I would encourage women before they lay down and have babies with a young man that you don't know or that you've only known for a little bit, take that opportunity to vet him. Make sure, I mean, I knew before I had a baby with my child's father, I knew what kind of man he was. I knew that 20 years later we would look up and he would still be right there. So make sure that you find someone who will be there with you. So they don't leave you with all of the worried about how you gonna pay for this and that, leaving you in financial ruin and financial poverty. I think to raise a kid in this economy is somewhere around $600,000 at the last time I checked in a lifetime. If you don't have $600,000 by yourself to take care of a baby, just consider maybe like making sure that you have a partner. And so my name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood. I'm at Miss Black Hollywood. That's MSBLACK Hollywood across all platforms. And then I'm also an entrepreneur. You can reach me at realvirtual.net if you are an entrepreneur that wants to, you're ready to start a business and you need creative coaching or you need help getting started. We can help you at Real Virtual. That's REEL virtual.net.
And as you can see, my co-queens are pretty powerful. I don't think we have any problems with self-worth here. And I am Laura Key. I am Laura Lala Key. I'm an international real estate agent, and you can reach me at bit.ly/Laura Key info. My take is this: as a mother who was a mother at 16 years old, I could not have possibly done it without my village. And because my village supported me, they also let me know that this was not something that should be repeated. And so from that experience, they helped me to get to the next level and see that it wasn't the end of the world, but they also made it a point where I still could have a father figure in my life as well as my sons. I'm grateful for my husband. He's been around since I was 14 years ago. He's one of my friends. We weren't dated at the time. He was one of my friends who actually came to see me at the hospital. So he's been in my son's life from day one, and that's who my son considers as a father. I am so glad that you all joined us here today. This is a very important topic, and I think we have been told that this needs to be a part 2. So you want to make sure that you definitely tune into us. You have been watching Fly Nubian Money. Money, ching, ching. And we help you to escalate and uplift yourself when it comes to money matters, and we talk about tough topics. And if you just now catching us, you missed the show, but you always can go back and watch the replay. We love to hear all of your comments afterwards. We're here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you also can check us out on Spotify. Just type in Fly Nubian Money so that you can listen to us wherever you go. And then if you don't want to miss any episodes, you can text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948, and then go on over to the website and get your free resources and courses on getting your money in order. We thank you so much for being here today, and we know we're going to see you tomorrow. Keep the conversation rolling, and we will check you out. Have a blessed day. Thanks, Queens. Bye.
You see my child in the back of here, like, why